Welcome to the soap opera of the stars, the third week of May. This is from the 20th of May to the 26th of May. As always, I'd like to begin with sharing I'm not an astrologer, I'm not a human design expert. I use astrology and human design both for myself as well as with my clients in my intuitive energy practice. And I've worked for about 14 years with that intuitive ability and 1,000 people. And in the last couple of years, where I have been using astrology and human design, I've definitely found that it helps to inform in terms of how we need to look at ourselves and what we need to understand about the general themes that are influencing our lives right now. The whole point of sharing these as stories is to make them a little lighter, to make them a little more fun, and to really look at what are the themes that they are bringing up. The reason why I share them at the end of the week instead of at the beginning is because I feel rather than use it as a predictive tool, it is better to use it as a tool for self-growth, personal development, and to really look back at how these themes have impacted us, what are the questions that need answering, and how we need to move forward in life or go deeper in terms of our self-work. I do share on Instagram a general theme for the week, short videos, which is at the beginning of the week. So you're welcome to look at that and then to use these more from the perspective of how has this impacted me and what can I do with it going forward. So let's begin with the stories. The sun had a dream, or was it a vision? We aren't quite sure. Basically, the sun saw something outside of what the sun usually sees. And if we as humans were to see the same thing in the same way, we would call it a dream. In the dream, time had been conquered by humans. Everyone felt that the only thing that mattered was the present moment that they were in. Everything existed right here. What they thought as past and the future and all that was actually right in this moment. And in this next one, and in this next one, so on and so forth. They stopped blaming their past, or human beings stopped blaming their past, and found instead that every moment had led them to the present one in perfect synchronicity. They knew without a shadow of doubt that everything was exactly as it was meant to be, and that every moment from this moment on would be the same, exactly as it needed to be. They still hoped and dreamt and aspired, but there was no concept of struggle or resistance. They knew as surely as they knew they were breathing that when the time was right, the fruit would fall from the tree and be delicious to eat and fall exactly where it was meant to fall and be eaten exactly by who needed to eat it. The fruit being an analogy for their dreams and aspirations, of course. And that is why the sun thought this must be a dream, because he couldn't for the life of him figure what the meaning of what he saw was. Was it guidance or premonition or something that was a symbol for something else or just a result of smoking up with Uranus? And as he was trying to answer all these very important and seemingly urgent questions, he received a call on his private line, which could only be Earth. I had a dream, she said, or I think it was a dream. I mean, do we even dream? Do we sleep? She asks, making the sun groan and wonder whether it was possible for the stars to get a hangover. You too, he responds, and the earth starts rattling off what she saw and suddenly stops with a, wait, what? What do you mean you too? Who else? So the sun says, I think I had a dream as well. What? She squeaked, making him instantly regret continuing this conversation and not asking her to call at another time. Look, sun says, the dream has left me feeling funny. So can we speak another time? No, says Earth. I'm feeling very strange and I want to share right now. Okay, says the sun resignedly, hoping she'd make it quick. Well, says Earth, I saw that human beings have become aware of an energy grid that connects everything in the universe and transfers all the light, the shadow, all the other energy. And in this understanding of how interconnected we all are, they have discovered that they can actually call into their experience all it is that they want and need. They've understood that they're each unique in the specific codes of what they need to fulfill as their life purpose, and they're being able to focus and call in just that and nothing more. In fact, they don't even want anything more. They are at peace with what they have. They are no longer resisting this movement of energy. They're no longer hoarding what they don't need and are no longer chasing after stuff that isn't in alignment with their authentic expression. Wow, says the sun, and tells her history. What do you think it means, the earth says. I have no idea, says the sun. I guess we need to see what unfolds, and only then will we know what we're being told. But don't you think we should do something to make this happen, says Earth? Do what? Asks the sun. It's not like your residents really listen anymore. Well, some do, says the Earth. Do you think we dreamt this because we've received a transmission? Do you think there's another way around? Interesting, says the sun. I think I would like to just stay in the moment though, Earth. This awareness seems quite meaningful. Let's see what unfolds, shall we? Says Earth, looking a little crestfallen. I would have liked to do something about it. Make it real, you know. Take it out of the dream world. Make it manifest. But I guess there isn't a lot of influence we have right now. That is awakening, but it will take time. Okay, let me at least gather some information on where this inspiration came from. The sun almost wanted to say Uranus's hookup, but resisted, since he doubted Earth could be kept from thinking this was a matter of great and urgent doing, even if all she did was just her sleuth work. The sun could not spend too much time on this because he needed to ensure all the packing was done. He was due to move to Gemini in a few days, and it suddenly occurred to him that perhaps this was a precursor to what was going to happen to him in a few days. Given Mercury was still in Taurus and was finally feeling like their old self, wouldn't be surprised if they had some tricks up their sleeve, Sun thought. Speaking of Mercury, they were minding their own business and definitely not causing any weird dreams or hallucinations. They were just happy to have found their old groove again, and they realized fondly that they were quite glad to still be in Taurus. It's grown on me, they thought fondly. Also, it wasn't long before they would be in their own house of Gemini, and there they were going to have so many chores, so much discussion. After all, they would get back there and have to deal with the impact of Mars and Venus having passed through, the sun still being there. May as well enjoy this marvelous pampering, they thought, and wondered whether they would still get those fantastic massages they had enjoyed while on retreat. Anyway, there were conversations to be had before the massages. They wanted to pick up the thread where they had left Nonna and were surprised to see that Jupiter was also there in the conversation. Mercury wondered whether to bring the whole Pluto topic up, but decided to role model all that they had learned and not repeat their old patterns. In fact, Mercury stayed mostly silent while listening to Jupiter and Nonna speak about the need to give from a space of fullness, and found they actually enjoyed absorbing all that was going on. It was helping them think and put their thinking together. Is this selfish, he began to think, or is this self-care? I don't have a lot to add to the subject, and so I want to listen, but perhaps I could share a perspective that they haven't thought of, given how much longer Nonna has spent on this subject. Jupiter, of course, was just beginning their exploration into the subject and was still giving examples around feeling like a newbie in Taurus and having to learn the rules of the house all over again, and how they were sure that they would be a master after a year, but then would have to learn it all over again when they enter Gemini. And he looked significantly at Mercury, who smiled back. It was strange, this space, thought Mercury. Could this be the receiving that they had been writing about in their book? They caught Shauna looking at them from across the houses, since Shauna was always looking where Nonna was and vice versa. There was a look of approval on Shauna's face. As if Mercury could hear his thoughts, he felt Shauna was appreciative of Mercury having consciously dealt with the discomfort that they'd experienced in the last few weeks. The members of the house of Pisces, now we're going to Pisces, were bemused. Saturn was no longer gloomy and moping about and was being all excessively polite. He seemed charged. He was still muttering under his breath, of course, but the words they heard were together, family, things like that. In his head, Saturn was thinking of planning a get-together for the stars. He didn't know what it was going to be like or when yet, but he knew he wanted everyone seated at a big communal table with lots of food being cooked right there, awesome drinks to go along with it, and just a really wonderful time together as a family. He smiled, feeling all romantic about the idea. Saturn thought the best person to speak with for this was Sun. Sun heard Saturn out patiently, but wasn't very supportive, in Saturn's opinion. Said things like, not feasible, how will you even get everyone at the same table? A good time would have been when we were all in Taurus, let's not plan so far in the future. Saturn went on to let him know how he always thought Sun was just too selfish and thought of no one but himself, and how one day he hoped Sun would just all burn out and be a sad little black hole that only consumed and never felt satisfied. The Sun made an excuse about being super busy and got off the call, but Saturn detected a hint of concern. Anyway, all of this left Saturn feeling awful about himself. He really thought he was onto something about bringing everyone together, and he wasn't saying it needed to be tomorrow. What was Sun's deal, he thought? The house of Pisces was now alarmed by a Saturn walking around with a thundercloud above his head. The Sun was perturbed. He'd had a sort of disagreement with the Earth on this whole do something, and now with Saturn, and he decided he needed to speak with someone who was used to such conflict. Mars was easily accessible as he was moving into the Sun's house of Leo. So Mars regaled him with stories of all the times he'd had run-ins with the other planets and definitely made Sun feel better about this not being his fault entirely, finished Mars. Mars was feeling so relieved. He could not wait to get into the sunny halls of Leo and spend time literally in the sun. He was also feeling both charged and focused, the latter being a slightly new feeling. He was still very clear about the docu-series he wanted and his needing Pluto to help, but he had decided to work on his approach to getting all this done. So when Sun came with his troubles, Mars knew he needed to find a good way to do this. He felt he needed to lead more by inspiration than by action. He knew from his friendly conversations with Saturn over the last few weeks how out of his comfort zone Saturn had been. And Pluto's words around this being the pressure Saturn needed to melt a little inside came back to him. And yet, Mars thought, too much pressure is also not a good thing, so perhaps he does need some friendly support. And so he called a conference with Nona and Shona and found Jupiter joined in, just because Jupiter was around. Given Jupiter's influence on Pisces, Mars decided that wasn't going to be such a bad thing after all. So Mars spoke to them, and Jupiter did agree about Saturn feeling a little pushed, but he also said he thought Saturn was thinking in the right direction when it came to looking at the stars as a collective. It means he's processed his angst, chimes in Shona, and is feeling more charitable towards us all. You know how Saturn usually holds a grudge? This is a clear indication he's taking responsibility for his own feelings and letting go of the past. Well, Sun isn't wrong in encouraging Saturn to focus more on the present and on himself, says Nona thoughtfully. Saturn always has these two stern boundaries, and I have a feeling that the last few weeks in Pisces have shaken him up. In what way, says Mars, curious. Well, I can feel a loneliness in him, almost, and hence his need for family and togetherness. I just think he needs to think through that a little more. He's on the right path. I just think he needs to understand the space from where he needs to make this idea happen. Would you speak with him then? Asked Mars, delighted that he seems to have made the right choice speaking with them. We will, say Nona and Shona together, and in fact we will ask Mercury to help us in this, declares Nona confidently. So as Mars leaves them to this, after having made this very diplomatic move. He makes one final call to Neptune and shares his concerns with him and asks him to be kinder to Saturn. Neptune agrees, since Mars asks so nicely, he says, and all feels well in the cosmos for now, sighs Mars, also acknowledging it's been quite an obstacle course to navigate. The stars seem to be asking us to balance action and emotion, to move forward, but with a clear understanding of who we are, what our internal saboteurs look like, what self-work are we yet to do to establish healthy boundaries, and what can we do to serve the collective from that space of feeling nourished within. Now, if any of this resonates, you would like to journey deeper and work with me, then please let me know in the comments or share an email with me on asoneis.pn@gmail.com or connect with me on Instagram. My handle is @Pallavi108. Of course, please do like, subscribe, comment, because that will help my channel to grow, and please do share this if this works for you. Thank you so much for being here and listening, and I would like to share all the love and light I have with you. My aim is to help people release pain and to feel more joy and ease in their life, and I hope this has helped with that.